It took me years. I cannot tell you how many years it took me to overcome my temptation, to overcome the feelings of lust. And some may argue that feelings of lust isn't so bad because it means that you're a man with testosterone that is flowing through his veins, and it is very natural. The problem is it infiltrates into your mind, it distracts you from your purpose, your calling, from what you're supposed to be doing, and you're not able to move the needle per se, or progress in the fields and the endeavors that you're wanting to progress in, or that you need to progress to fulfill your potential as a man, and that you're constantly distracted. And it took me so long to overcome lust, and it got to a point, and look, I'm not a religious person. I don't have affiliations to Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. I'm naturally agnostic. One day I may become religious. I've read the Bible, I've read the Quran. I'm still at a phase where I'm exploring, hence why I've not made any religious videos on this channel, because how could I? You know, I'm not at that stage yet. I'm still learning and and exploring these areas. But even I got to a stage where I'd wake up and pray, please, God, something, a higher power. The feelings of lust and temptation were too much because it was so distracting. It almost felt like, you know, we've all heard the phrase, right? The phrase, the term, get it out of your system. I don't like that phrase, because what you're insinuating is you have no control over it whatsoever, and that in order to surpass this stage, you have to get it out of your system, which means participating in that said thing, which again is insinuating you have zero control over your thoughts or your mind, which is a very dangerous game to play. But I got to a stage where I'd wake up in the morning and these feelings of lust that I couldn't control, I'd start praying to a higher power. I started praying to a God, please, how can I overcome these temptations of lust? It got to a stage where I was so naive that I assumed that one day I would just magically wake up and these feelings of lust would just evaporate, it would disappear, it would disintegrate, and I could go about my daily life not looking at every single woman in a particular way, not going on those websites, as we've already discussed and mentioned in length, and doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. And there are a few tips that I'm going to give you that's going to help you overcome lust, that for me helped me massively, because it was something that I was battling for years on end. And the reason why I say to you guys, it is something that needs to be a priority. If you're not making it a priority, you have to make it a priority, which is why I keep banging on the drum about nofab. I'm not counting days. I'm not that rubbish approach of challenge. It has to be a lifestyle that you embed over time. Relapses, of course, are a normal thing, but it needs to be a lifestyle that you embed over time. Now, the first thing that you must do, and I have mentioned this briefly, when it comes to social media, you have to be so careful. And the reason why I say this is because as men, we're visual creatures, meaning we like what we see. So naturally, you have to be very conscious. You have to be very conscientious and aware of exactly what you're doing at all times, especially when you're scrolling on social media. What does your For You page look like on TikTok? When you're scrolling through YouTube Shorts, of course, the algorithm is tailored to what you tend to enjoy and like. What type of content are you consuming? Is it mainly entertainment? In that case, you might be susceptible to falling into those traps. I know X, for example, formerly known as Twitter, I know that, for example, I can't even open in public because yes, it's based on algorithm to a certain extent because it's based on accounts that you've been following and things that are retweeted. But the odd occasion, exclusive, explicit images start to appear out of nowhere that I haven't even selected or even followed this page. So again, be very mindful, be very careful of what you're consuming, because what you consume, the algorithm is naturally going to throw that more at you. So what type of channels are you consuming? And Instagram is by far the worst. Do not, and I say, this is the main tip, do not touch the For You page. I cannot make that point more abundantly clear. Do not touch the For You page. Well, when I say For You, the Explore page, the Explore tab on Instagram. If you're going to use Instagram, no problem at all. Quick plug, follow me on Instagram in the description below, in the comment section below. But I digress. Do not go on the Explore page, because even if I'm not consuming, even if I don't intend to look at women in bikinis, and I might be following, I don't know, accounts on entrepreneurship, right, or stoicism or entertainment, right, which has nothing to do with women in bikinis. If I click on the Explore page, there will be at least 2 to 3 images of women in bikinis, and that already is going to be a trigger, because now as men, we're visual creatures, we like what we see, our mind goes to places that it shouldn't be going to. And then what does that do? That causes the process of edging, which I've spoken about on this channel. You start to get urges. Then what happens? Then you go onto websites on Google that you shouldn't be going on, and you start doing stuff to yourself that you shouldn't be doing. And the cycle is perpetual. It never ends. And that's why you're in this miserable state where it takes not even months, years and years in a process where you cannot overcome lust. You're sat there and you think to yourself, what is it going to take for me to overcome this? And that's why you have to analyze what you're doing. You have to be so careful. You have to be so careful. I said this to a mate of mine. It's basically soft corn. That's what Instagram is. It's soft corn. It might as well be. Some of the stuff that's flicked up to my eyes, and I have to look away and think to myself, bloody hell, bloody hell. So you just have to be extremely mindful. And the second one, which I've banged on the drum about, it's the websites that you're consuming on Google, and you know exactly the ones that I'm talking about. If you think for 1 second you can consume it and that it's okay to practice in moderation, and you know it's perfectly fine because I'm a single man, and you know it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. Look, of course it doesn't mean you're a bad person, but what do you think that's doing to the wiring process in your brain? Jordan Peterson famously once said many years ago, the problem with pornography is that a 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy today, in today's society, sees more naked women in one screen than his great-grandparents did in his entire life. That's the problem. Now, he said, whether you think that's a good or bad thing, just understand that that's a very powerful thing. And he's absolutely spot on. And that's what I'm saying. When he means by powerful, what he's essentially implying is the way that that's rewiring your brain. How do you think you operate on a daily basis after seeing or watching those images or watching those videos? How do you think you're going to operate as a person? No wonder why you're anxious. No wonder why you're always on edge. Because it's not a natural thing to do. It's super normal stimuli that's fried your brain in terms of dopamine and its receptors and the natural wiring of the brain. You just have to be so mindful, so conscious and so careful, and you have to be analyzing every step. When it comes to social media, when it comes to what you're doing on these sites, even things like Reddit, I'll be honest guys, even things like Reddit, look at just the overall applications on your phone. Even erotica, or just things that might be books or stories that might trigger you or, you know, provide you with urges. James Clear, Atomic Habits, it's about the environment that you cultivate. Is the environment that you've basically set up, is that conducive for long-term success? Is that moving the needle? Is that getting you to where you need to get to? Are you on your purpose? Things like lust, it takes you away. It distracts you from where you need to be. It's very damaging for the soul. It's very damaging for who you are as a person. And then this time, fast forward 5 years, you wonder why you haven't made much progress at best. At worst, you've gone backwards. So that's the critical part. This is the point I'm making. For me, it took years. Why? Because I initially never took it seriously enough to see it as a priority. I always saw it as a back burner because it was pleasurable. Of course it is. You walk down the street, you walk down the shopping centre, shopping mall, and you see women with beautiful assets. Of course you're going to turn left and right. It's natural. But now I've reached a point where I don't go on these websites. I don't go on the explore page of Instagram. I'm very mindful of what I'm doing on a daily basis. I've pretty much limited my screen time significantly. And even when I'm out in the public eye, if I see a good looking woman, I'm just looking at her face because obviously eye contact is natural. It could be an 85-year-old grandma. It doesn't matter. I'm maintaining eye contact. Other than that, I walk past. I don't turn my head around and glance at her assets behind her. I don't do that anymore. I used to. And that's the problem. And now I find that I'm so laser beam focused, so focused on the mission, on the task, because I've overcome lust. And overcoming lust will be one of the greatest things that you ever do. So please, please, please take this seriously. But if you did find value and enjoyed it, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, follow me on Instagram, leave me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and I'll see all of you guys for my next video. Peace.